Hello everyone. This is the April Scrabdackle Devlog. I'm recording just at the beginning of May here, a little bit behind schedule. Got quite a lot to show you folks. Some of it is kind of behind the scenes, some of it is music. We are obviously in a very different type of junk heap region that we've seen before. So there's a lot of new visuals to kind of check out. So I'm going to do a little bit of a walkabout this time. And talk through some of the changes as we go. So I'm just going to pick up my scry here quickly. This is supposed to say the actual key that it is. So I've changed this menu a little bit. It was fine, it still is fine, it didn't take a lot of work, but the old aesthetic, which hopefully I remember to overlay over top of this while I'm talking about it, was kind of just me picking random fonts. And I think really it's only been in this calendar year that I've got the UI colors kind of figured out and the fonts and everything like that figured out. So we're going to see that again. We're going to see how it's different in some cases now, but I'm going to go for a little bit of a walk. So we have a lot of new assets and things like that that are in the junk heap. We've got these tiny little shrubby trees. We've got some reeds. Watercolor's different. Some tile sets are different. There's bits of sticks and stones and mushrooms here and there. I'm really excited about all these changes. It's really making things feel more alive to me. The garbage piles have changed as well. We'll see a bit more about how they work later. I think what I want to do first is kind of get my wand and show you all some stuff from there too. I've redone about half of the junk heap, so I'm not going to show you what I have not redone yet. These motes need to relax with how fast they are stepping. So you can see here, this used to be a save point that has a whole bunch of rocks. We've made some adjustments. I keep saying we as if there's anyone else doing this. I have made some adjustments. The sound is, let me turn that down. Sound is still a little bit loud. This is still a freeware sound, but now save points are actually made out of these kind of bits of local detritus. So every region, whatever stuff that I use, that's what the save points should actually look like, because I want them to feel more natural, like they're just things that happen to get collected in this spot. They don't break when you walk through them now until you go all the way through, so if I do like that, it's going to stay up. So you kind of avoid that problem where you kind of walk partly through, it builds, and then it breaks and so on. A lot of related bugs have been fixed as well. Alright, I'm going to keep the sound low. It was a bit too loud last month. So I made some updates to how magic and the wand work, and I think I'm just going to show you the moat challenge here when you get your wand for the first time, and then we'll talk about it after. And all of these items now have their own kind of color set for what's appropriate. The magic wand gives you the Scrabdackle ability, which is just an attack spell, but it's also kind of your access point to a lot of magic, so I went with sort of the three magic-y colors here. Alright. If you're noticing that these motes have too much health overall, you are correct. There's some rebalancing that I still have to do. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Or if you notice, seeing smoke start to go up around blue. Alright, I just did that to get rid of the sound effect again. I've got to turn that down. So this room has been redesigned just slightly, so that there's a save point here that you don't know about, and when the challenge is over, it activates itself and the bridges don't come back until you have cleared that. Previously, this was the only point in the game where there was an autosave, and I thought that's teaching the player the wrong lesson. There had to be an autosave here because people would get the wand, not know how saving works, and then go and fight the Little Lord mini-boss and lose. Because that just, that happens when you're learning. And this is an old room, as you can see. It's very not the same as some of the new ones. This one still needs work. But people would have that experience and then go back to the very, very beginning of the game, and that sucked. So I added an autosave, but it also didn't teach players about save points. So that's sort of just a concession to make sure that happens. Let's look at some of the changes to the magic system. I'm still working on balancing this. It's not totally locked in, but... So now there's this bulb here, and that's the main indicator of whether the condenser is totally full or not. And that mostly matters because when there's all of these segments of information, like I could have chosen a way that is less relevant to game lore to present it, but at the same time, there's so much detail on it that the player can't really look away over to here to be like, oh, am I at 45%? Am I at 50%? What's the real difference between those when it refills so fast? So I'm trying to shift how I communicate that to the player to be more focused on, is this totally full? Is it kind of full? Is it almost empty, or is it actually empty? And there's some more mechanics that are kind of in place now, which, again, they still need balancing. But working on that right now with the playtesting group, and we're getting there. So I'm going to shoot a few times. This first shot has been given just a little bit of visual polish. But if I shoot a few times, you'll see these smaller stratoblasts come out, and then the full one if I'm shooting from full. So I'm trying to incentivize, like, shooting from full is an effective strategy. If you can get the timing down, you can shoot shots that do slightly more damage and travel slightly faster than the smaller ones. You can still spam click a little bit like that, or do a burst, but that's what happens if you shoot too much. So I'm going to trigger that again. I'm calling that overdraft. It's basically just a cooldown. So if you spam too much, you click too much, if you empty out your bar, basically, it's going to trigger, bar turns purple and starts smoking. Blue also, to show that again, starts smoking a little bit too, because they're the one holding the condenser, and I want there to be a visual at the player. And you won't be able to shoot. So I'm clicking as much as I can here, and that's not working. If I trigger it one more time and you look at the cursor, you can see it's sort of like doing this recharging animation. So there's a lot more to communicate here. I'm going to go to the Little Lord fight, which is an old room that needs work. This is not good visuals still. I want to improve them. But basically, in this fight, you could be over here, shooting at Little Lord, or like shooting where you think they're going to go, and you're paying attention to this bar, and the enemy, and if there's multiple enemies on screen, then multiple of them, and where blue is, and the cursor position. So that's just a lot of different places around the screen that you're expecting the player to look. So I'm trying to have relevant information everywhere. It's a tough challenge to do because it's not a first-person game, and it's also not a side-scroller where like the player is always kind of centralized on the screen by the camera. The camera doesn't move, so that information has to be possible to see at any point on the screen, but also not constantly present. So for blue, it's this thing where they start smoking, but when you're aiming, you're looking at your cursor mostly, or like near your cursor. And right now the cursor just shrinks a bit as it starts to get low. The next thing I need to change before I'm really happy with this is having the cursor better signal the state of your magic meter. This is a bit too hard to read in combat. I'm going to kick off this right here, and it's really hard for me to tell without kind of thinking about it, or thinking about the pacing of it. The sound's probably too loud here. You know what, let's just adjust the in-game sound down. Sorry if that was annoying. I don't think I have the time to re-record this today. So basically when you're having this fight, it should feel like it's your choice of to, get a few good hits in while you have the opportunity, risk that overdraft, wait for an opportunity there after the shield reflecting attack, or try and get into the swing of things and do a regular, or like a full shot with the full condenser every time. But because it's really hard to tell where it's at, it basically feels like it's random, or that you have to count your shots to effectively get it working. And that's just not a good feeling. So, hopefully that's all audible. I think that I'm going to switch out now and talk about Alright, so we are back here at the main menu, and I've made some adjustments to the save select screen. Partially that's so that I can fully navigate it with either the mouse or basically my keyboard. That's setting things up for when I use a controller in the future to control things, as a controller does. When I use a gamepad is what I mean to say. But there's also this other information that I've got set up now. So I think this is the save we're playing. We've got the wand, we've got the scry glass. So now there's this submenu that comes up where you can cancel out of that, which suggests you to play or rename your file. So let's rename this to renamed file, excitingly. We can also erase it. And I just added some animations from other stuff here just to make it feel a little bit more alive the way that I always want it to. You're prompted to name your save file the first time that you load a new save, but if you leave it blank, it'll just do save 3, so it has something there. And the honors thing here is eventually going to link to achievements, which will be save specific. If you're playing on Steam, I mean, it's going to be specific to your Steam account. That's just how it works, but I also want them to unlock specific to a save, so you can kind of know which save did which stuff. And I've got to have that in here so that if you're playing somewhere that isn't Steam, you still have kind of access to those achievements. I haven't built that system yet. I'm just going to leave this as a disabled button for the time being. Alright, so this is a little bit of a shorter devlog than they've been lately, as you can probably see. I have done a lot of work this month. It's been a very hard month personally, so not quite as much as I wanted to do. There's a lot of extra stuff to talk about, and some of it's really hard to show here. So this YouTube devlog is also paired with a written itch.io one, where the link should be in the video description somewhere. If you're watching here on YouTube, can learn a little bit more about some of the things I've been doing with adding a Kickstarter NPC to the game, which I'm really excited about, how I planned that save select screen and make sure I kind of handled all of these circumstances of it. Right now I think you're seeing me just kind of jump around the junk heap area, which is first pass redone. These little decorative bits that, I don't know, I hope are on screen. I don't have quite the right balance of like what's too much and what's too little. There's a couple of rooms that feel, just right, that kind of Goldilocks thing. But overall, I'm really happy with how the visual design is looking of these areas. They're starting to match kind of the picture that I've had in my head. You can see things like the water is a different color now. It actually shifts colors naturally as you transfer between regions, with each region kind of having the ability to have its own water style, which is going to be I'm really excited about what that means for a few areas. I also had to write a game design document, which is something I guess I've avoided doing or kind of intentionally chosen not to, because it's basically just me working on this. And starting a game design document too early in the process means you're kind of like writing down, like you're trying to figure out things in theory that you're not figuring out in play, and some of that should be, I think, a little bit of both. And I don't want to create like maintenance work for updating this living document. So for me, like it's just been me doing the development for however long it's been now, a pretty long time. And I haven't wanted to commit to that. I've had an external thing I've needed to commit to it for, and it's been really interesting writing it up. It's just like a Google Docs thing. I don't think I can show anything here. I don't know, maybe I'll have a little slight hint of something on screen, but kind of outlaying here are all of the gameplay systems in the game. Here is the kind of design behind this thing. Here is the summaries of all of the core stories and how they kind of connect to each other. It's my first time really having to write that out for another person. So it's been, that was an interesting process. Like it took a while, but also something I enjoyed doing, I think more than I expected. I don't think I'm going to keep it up to date unless I need to externally, but that was a cool process. That's the kind of thing I'd like to eventually share once the game is out and like be able to show without being worried about story spoilers. Finally, I think this is the last thing. I wrote a lot of music this month. I mentioned that it was a challenging month. I didn't realize how much I was writing, but apparently that has been how I've processed a lot of, just life stuff going on. I'm not going to get into it, but music's been a bit of an outlet. And I've written a lot of game music that I planned for the game. I've written a lot of additional stuff that just kind of, I don't know, flew out of me, and that I have space for in the game, but wasn't actually really in scope. And I've been writing it fast too. Like, I was trying to count up what I've done this month. I wrote probably close to 30 minutes of music, 20 minutes of like totally complete music, like start to finish. I did the whole tracks. I finished 8 tracks, and I concept completed another 8, and that's like an order of magnitude more than what a normally busy music month looks like. So some of that's been happening behind me here as I'm talking. I don't think I can share everything, but I can definitely share some stuff. So, you've been enjoying, as I've been speaking, some of this exciting new music. I don't know. These devlogs aren't, they're not very technically impressive. But it's what I can do. I'm trying to talk about the game, keep myself accountable to people who've backed it, people who are just interested, making sure that I don't just go in a rabbit hole of not doing anything. And it is nice to kind of look back and be like, that was a really rough month, but I still actually did manage to get a lot done, so maybe it's going better than I thought. I think that's it. So I'm just gonna wrap up there, and I hope you've enjoyed. And I think for May, which has already started now, I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different, and we're gonna see how that goes. So I'll meet you back here in a month, and we will debrief. Happy it's not winter anymore, and I'll see you later.